Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm good. I'm Elaine from Santa Cruz.
Oh, hi, Elaine. I'm Randy Sedano with Gateway.
Hi, Randy. How you're doing? Good.
Yeah, just trying to get everything set up here because I have the what is it the Chrome notebook, and it does
Oh,
not give me all the functions with the Zoom app,
no.
and so I have to have two computers going at the same time. I have to have one that I'm using to communicate with, and one I'm using to have a presentation with. So fortunately, Laura and I got it all figured out. Good morning, Laura.
Hi, good morning. It looks like you're pretty much set up.
Yeah, it's ready to go. I just fine tuning a couple things before we get started. So
Okay.
I have that same problem because I have my MacBook Air doesn't have enough use backgrounds. And then I've got my iPad over here, but on my iPad, I'm now on a different Zoom. So I have two Zooms going at the same time.
that's exactly what I'm doing.
And I wish I could take a picture of it, but
Well, let me see. You know what's good about it is I can have the share my screen, and I can also have a full gallery. So I'm probably going to be floating my eyes back and forth a little bit.
Randy, Renee Mello won't be with us today. She has another meeting, so just letting you know.
Oh, bummer.
Well, I know. So hopefully somebody else can help you. Or are you able to see the chat pretty easy because you have two screens going?
Most likely, I can have it on the other computer. And
Okay.
okay, yeah. So I think everything's ready to go. Let me put this other computer where the chat will show. And let me see who's on here. Hey, Rob, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good. Having fun. I see Rob Malik also.
Yep.
Elvira, Kelly,
I'm here.
Monica.
You have more and more jumping on.
There's Sam, Elaine. Well, good morning, everybody. It's not even 9 o'clock yet. We're getting a
Oh,
good
I
time.
know. We're doing great.
Very good. Everybody doing good? Everybody can unmute and talk right now. Class ain't started yet.
Yes, I'm great.
Good.
What do you want to hear from us?
How you doing?
Doing great. Life is good.
Anybody got a good joke? Clean joke?
Oh, no, not now.
Not now. Save it for after.
What is a balloon's least favorite kind of music?
Pins and needles.
Who said it? Someone said it.
Pop.
Pins
Yep.
and needles.
No, not Rob. You're wrong. Sorry.
I'm
Pop,
always
Hey, Tom.
pop music. Hi, Tom.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, so 8:59. So we'll give it a couple more minutes, let people log on. I know sometimes when I'm at the house, I just forget about what the time is and I log on a little bit late. I think we've all done that. Anybody have any questions or anything they want to bring up before we start? Today we're going to talk about running your escrow, getting a contract to actually close.
Before you start, Randy, us team leaders are on purpose right now. So it is officially 9 o'clock. And I know Rob just stepped away for a second, but we just wanted to, all three of us wanted to pop on really quick because these Ignite classes have been going so well and have seemed to be so well received. And today's the last day. So we wanted to congratulate all of you.
All right.
Congratulations. And for participating in Ignite 2.0, it was the first time that we've hosted and taught the new content, and obviously the first time we've ever done it on Zoom, and the first time we've ever done it with all three of our offices at the same time. So triple whammy there, and we're just super excited that you guys all enjoyed it and that you all got to know each other better from the different offices, got a chance to collaborate and mastermind, learn and grow together. And so congratulations. Today you'll be completing our first Zoom Ignite, and we're looking forward to bringing it to you guys again in a couple of months. It's been so well received. We definitely think we're going to do it again. So congratulations, everybody. From your
Hey,
team leaders.
well done.
Great job, everybody. Great job.
And Laura, I would just like to give you full credit for pulling this together and getting Rob's office and Santa Cruz involved. I think you really were the precipice that made it all happen, and we appreciate you working hard to make that a reality.
Well,
So
thank
thank
you.
you.
Laura Gleason.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just so excited that everybody has enjoyed it, and it's part of our, I think it's going to be part of our new normal, and the first of many collaborative efforts to come. I know, for example, and Rob, you might want to talk about this tomorrow. Your office is hosting a class. You want to talk about it a little bit more?
Sure. So my agents, a couple of them put together an amazing virtual open house this weekend. It was the first time they had done it in this format and had such extreme success that they wanted to share with everybody. So they're going to have a class tomorrow.
10 o'clock.
10.
Thank you. 10 o'clock. Sorry, a lot going on. At 10 o'clock tomorrow to give users the experience. From my office, you'll get the Zoom information this morning so that you know about tomorrow. And yeah, it should be really good. They've had a lot of great feedback from it, and
Cool.
just want to share.
Thank you.
Terrific.
And so that's so
Looking
nice
forward
that,
to it.
yeah, it's nice that
Cool.
we're finding ways to share. I know I emailed the information to my office yesterday, and I would say in addition to that, we've definitely heard, Elaine, from a couple people. Jordan, for example, has offered to do some tech trainings, so we're super stoked on that too. So
Yeah.
Okay, I
congratulations.
have to jump off because I'm on another Zoom.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Us team leaders will leave you to it, Randy. Congratulations, everybody. And Randy, I'll be in the background if you need me, and the usual. Okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Oh, how about I'll go ahead and mute everybody and we'll start fresh. Oh, I lost you, Randy. Hold on, I gotta find you. Hang on. Whoa. Let's see, it's not, okay, I know what I need to do. Hold on a second, I gotta get you back. Exit full screen, there we go, let me find you. Okay, all right, Randy, talk to me.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you. All right, so you're good to go, and if you need anything, just let me know, okay?
All right, thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Nice seeing you again. My name is Randy Sedano. I'm in the Gateway office. Been doing real estate for a few years now, probably since the mid-90s. So I've seen a few things, and fortunately I was able to learn quite a few things throughout the years. And one of the things that I really enjoyed doing is learning how to foresee potential problems and eliminate or reduce those problems from the very beginning. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, as well as all the items that it's going to take to bring your transaction to a close, a successful close, that is. So we are in, it says element session 9, contract to close. And like Laura says, this is our final class. So the grand finale, okay? Everybody ready? Anybody want to share something before we start? Like I said yesterday, I'll wait about 10 seconds before I move on. And when I say, is there any questions, I may not stop talking, but in about 10 seconds, I'll just say, let's move on. Okay, everybody's good? Then we shall get started. Okay, so today, what we're going to focus on, of course, is not everything you see on the screen here, but we're going to focus on the actual transaction from the day you get acceptance to the day you hand over the keys. And believe it or not, there's quite a bit that takes place that probably some of us may not even realize how much actually takes place. But we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about who's involved, and we're going to talk about what types of communication you have, what kind of follow-up. And also, when we get to the end of the part where you're closing escrow, we're going to backtrack a little bit, and we're going to go over a few things that could help give you a good, smooth transaction. Okay, anybody have anything to say? So this is going to be a fun class today. We're going to have a few stories that I'm going to bring in to help illustrate some of the points that we're going to be talking about. Okay, let's move on. Okay, what they want to talk about is building buyer and seller timelines. It could be a calendar, it could be a timeline, it could be just a checklist of what to do. There's more than one way to do it, and what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about not actual dates, we're going to talk about different periods. The contingency period, after the contingency period, prior to closing and the actual closing. So it's going to be broken up, and I'm going to talk about different things that I do during those periods. And then we'll talk about, like I said, we'll go back and talk about how I set up the transaction to hopefully close really smooth. Because we all want smooth transactions because that's what makes clients happy and that keeps them coming back and they refer you their friends and family. Okay, let's move on then to talking about the timeline. And Ignite talks about plotting communication points. And so basically what they're saying is we need to communicate because there's quite a few parties involved in a transaction. So if you think about it, most of the time you're going to have a lender, you'll have inspectors, appraiser, you have the title company, you have possibly a 1031 exchange company, you might have an attorney involved, a financial advisor, tax person, there are other family members. So there's quite a few people that we need to communicate with. And we are the central hub because if we don't have good follow-up, things can fall through the cracks and that's what creates problems. So you got to know who's involved and when to follow up and what to follow up with. Okay, also it talks about putting documents on your timeline. When do you have to have your AVID done? When do you have to have your disclosures completed and returned? When do you have to get your contingency removal in? Is there any addendums? And an addendum probably won't have a certain time frame because you never know when something can come up that requires an addendum. But just keep in mind there are certain documents that do have to be executed at a certain time. Okay? Anything before we actually get into the timeline? As we go into the timeline, we're going to talk about quite a bit of stuff and then not just talk about, I'm not just going to list off things, I'm going to also explain the importance of some of the things we talk about. So what tasks have deadlines and what are those deadlines? And how can we help manage other parties involved in the deal? Well, the follow-up is what we were just talking about. You need to know who to follow up with and what to follow up with. And having deadlines, what tasks have deadlines, it helps to have it written out where you can see it. And it also helps if you have a transaction coordinator. They make life a lot easier for us. And so if you're not using one, I would suggest you do. It definitely helps. It frees up your time. And the whole thing is if we have more time, then we have more time to find business, right? Okay, you guys ready for the timeline? Ignite has a very abbreviated timeline, I would say. So we're going to go a little bit more in depth. And being that these classes are written for the whole nation, things will vary from area to area. So what we're going to do is we're going to tailor it to our area here. And as we go into the timeline, you're going to see that we have quite a few items. This is only page 1. So if you look on the bottom, those are the periods that I'm talking about. Now, I'm going to get rid of this. Excuse me 1 second. I'm just trying to get rid of this panel on the side here because it's covering, okay, there we go. It's covering some of the stuff I'm reading.
You can move it around. Did you figure it out?
Yeah, I just got it.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So day 1, your acceptance date. Now you're in contract. So whoever received the last acceptance, whether it's an offer or the counter offer, then a confirmation of the acceptance is sent. And also you're going to notice throughout these different steps, I'm going to have in there ask for referrals because there's always these times when the clients are happy. And that is the best time to ask for referrals. So when they get in contract, hey, that's great. If they feel good, hey, you might want to ask for a referral. Who else do you know that can use my help? Some people don't like using the word referral. And so sometimes we say, well, who else do you know that can use my help? Would you mind introducing me to them? This way you don't even use the word referral, but it still gets you the same benefit. Okay, then right away, first day, send the contract to the lender, the title company, the attorney if there's one involved, and the client. Also, send the prelim to the lender. And on Fridays, you want to really move fast on a Friday, especially if it's, midday, because this way the title company and the lender can communicate to do their fees, and you don't lose the 2 days on the weekend. Okay, so keep that in mind. If there's an HOA, you got to get the HOA information to the lender because they need an HOA certification. And a lot of times lenders forget to do this up front and it causes delays. Okay, so it's real important to get that done. Speak with a lender about the appraiser or the appraisal. Tell them you want to be the point of contact. And you'll meet the appraiser and let them in. And this way, if you want to go with comps to help your case, make sure it comes in at value, you have that opportunity. And sometimes the appraisers are going to have the research done before they get there. Sometimes they don't. So if they say, well, I haven't done the comps yet, then you can say, hey, well, maybe these will help you out. And you can talk to them about the comps. And another thing that helps out too is if you talk to the pending sales, the agents for the pending sales in the area that might be used as a comp, find out how much those are going for, if you can. I mean, sometimes they'll give you the sales price. Sometimes they'll say, well, I can't tell you yet. We haven't released our contingencies, but try it because that could help the appraiser as well. And make sure the buyer has their insurance in place. Not set up, but make sure they have an insurance person that you can give that information to the title company because then the title company will arrange the insurance for you. Okay, so that's day one. That helps get things going pretty quickly. As we look at the next side, I always like to have, let me move this real quick. Okay, good, there we go. Create a calendar of events for your clients. Calendar of events are the critical dates that we're talking about. When are your contingencies due? When do you need to have this done? When do you need to do this? Okay, and that could be an actual calendar that you just write what takes place on that day. You can do a timeline, or if you're using a transaction coordinator, most likely they're going to do that for you. Okay, make sure the buyer gets the deposit to escrow when they're supposed to. Get the HOA docs and disclosures if they were not done up front. Most of the time we're going to have all that information up front, but if it's not, in some cases you won't have it up front. Make sure those are requested or ordered. And then also you want to order your inspections. I left that out on the first side on day one. I always like to order my inspections right away because you never know how busy they are. So of course you want to attend the inspections and you don't want to follow the inspector around. That sometimes bothers them. But at the end, normally they'll be very happy to go over what they found and give you a good summary. Okay, same thing with the appraisal. Try to go to the appraisal if you can. And then when those come in, you want to review the inspections and disclosures before you go over them with your client. Okay, so make sure you do a good review. This way when you sit down with your client, you're not having to read and thumb through things. You can already have an idea what you're going to talk about. And then ask your clients what they think. Are they comfortable? Do they need anything to be done? Sometimes it's good to go back to the property and look at some of the items that are called in the inspections. Sometimes the inspectors have terminology that makes it sound worse than what it really is. Inspectors are trying to protect themselves, so they're going to mention a lot of things that are probably not a big deal, but it could raise concern with the buyers. So sometimes you go back and see what they're actually talking about. And if you are going to need to get some estimates, go ahead and get estimates. Bring a contractor and a handyman, see what it's going to cost. Because if they're going to take it as is, they're going to want to know what it's going to cost. And if you're going to be requesting for repairs or a credit, then you want an idea on how much of a credit to request. Okay. So after you get to this point, you're going to either release your contingencies or you're going to request repairs or a credit. So it might be time to negotiate again. And that's when an addendum will come into place. And let's just say that there is an agreement and there's a credit or or reduction in price, whatever the case may be, you need to get that addendum to the lender right away because they need to know these numbers. They don't need all addendums, but if it affects the price or if there's credits involved, absolutely get it to the lender. Okay, so are the contingencies ready to be removed? Hopefully so. Remind the buyer about the contingencies and what it means to remove them. Make sure they understand what they're doing when they remove contingencies. Follow up with the lender regarding the loan approval and the appraisal and any outstanding conditions. Once you do that, what I like to do is document that I received an okay to remove contingencies. So with the lender, have them send you an email or a text message. Get something that you can document that the lender said it's okay to remove the loan and the appraisal contingency. Very important because if anything ever comes back, an argument, people have selective memory. So this way you can show them, I was told by the lender. Same thing with the contingencies for the property. Have the buyer send you an email or have them acknowledge your email. Have something that you can refer back to, okay? And it's another time, you're gonna tell the buyers, oh great, now we're getting ready to close. They may, it's a good positive thing. Ask for referrals. Any questions so far? Yes, Allison, you raise your hand?
Sorry, I couldn't get to the unmute. Do we have, because I have the participant guide, but this isn't on it. Do we have, is there a way to get a copy of this? Is super helpful.
Well, you know what I can do is I can give it to maybe Jade or somebody to email it out, because I did this myself. This is, I added this into the presentation, so this is not part of the guide.
Yeah, this is really helpful.
You can take a picture of it as well. That's what I did.
Yeah, I did that too.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, so like I was mentioning, these courses are written for nationwide, and so what I'd like to do is tailor them to our area and how we actually practice out here. So, ready to move on? Let's move on. Yes. It's not moving on. There we go. Okay, so now after removing contingencies, now we got some follow-up to do. We want to follow up with the lender for the CTC and the CD. What that is, a CTC stands for clear to close. That means they have everything met. The underwriter says, yes, you're ready to go. And then they order the CD. CD stands for closing disclosure. Now the closing disclosure is important because that starts your 3-day wait period. What that means is after the mortgage meltdown, they have a lot of new federal guidelines that came out. And so the 3-day wait period means that once the CD, the closing disclosure, is sent from the lender to the buyers need to acknowledge it. So it's not the day the CD comes out that starts the period, it's the day they acknowledge it. So it's just like a DocuSign, it's just electronic, so it's an email that goes out, they acknowledge it, now your 3-day period starts. So even if the docs are entitled that same day, the buyers cannot sign them until that 3 days is up. So just make sure you're aware of that and you let your clients know that as well. So then you want to follow up with the lender. Say, hey, have the docs been ordered? Have they gone out? And then after that, you're going to follow up with title. Hey, are the docs in? Because sometimes they take a little while to get there. If it's late in the day, they might not show up till the next day. But it's always good to follow up and find out when they're there. And then once they're there, then most title companies won't schedule a sign-off until the docs are in. It varies from title company to title company, but most of the time I've found that they don't want to set an actual appointment until they have the docs. Okay, so set up your sign-off and request an estimated closing statement. And so the title company will prepare all the final figures. I should say the estimated final figures, because you have an estimated closing statement, which is during your signing, and then after close of escrow, they're going to send out a final closing statement with the numbers that are actually final. Okay, so review the closing statement, make sure everything is there, make sure the buyers are not paying for things they're not supposed to be paying, make sure that everything is in order as per the contract and what your buyers are expecting. The things that you might find that are mistakes, or maybe not mistakes, but just numbers that don't look right, is a lot of times the title companies will estimate high. For example, the notary fee, a lot of times you'll see $200. you know it's not going to be a $200 notary fee unless it's a mobile notary that's going across the country. So it's they always pat it high and they will adjust it down. Different little things like that. But talk to your loan or your escrow officer about things like this. And if you do find a mistake, make sure you get it taken care of right away, because it's good to have everything done before your clients actually sign off. Okay. If there's any work being done on the property, make sure that what was supposed to be done was done. Okay, because if it's in the contract, it's got to be done. I like to remind my buyers about their utilities. Say, hey, escrow's closing pretty soon. Call the utilities, tell them to shut it off on a certain date. I'm sorry, that was the sellers that have them shut off. Right now we're talking about the buyers. I tell them, well, they have to shut off wherever they're living, but have them call the utilities and tell the utilities that you want to have the service transferred into their name, not to turn it off, just have it transferred to their name when the buyer or when the seller has it turned off. Okay. Remind them about forwarding their mail and different things that will help out when somebody's moving. Schedule your walkthrough. Right now, I think we're going to be able to do walkthroughs again. As of today, we're not supposed to, but I think with the new guidelines that changed yesterday, we'll get clarification from Mike on that, I'm sure, pretty soon. So pre-closing and closing. Of course, I always like to go to the sign-off. It's a good time. Buyers usually are happy, and another good time to ask for referrals. You don't have to ask every time I'm telling you, but just, find the times when the emotions are good and high, and it's a good time. Buyer's funds to title. There's a couple ways you can do it. With that estimating closing statement, they're going to have an idea how much they need to close escrow. May not be the exact dollar because things are prorated, and depending on the day we close, things could change. So I always tell my buyers, just round up $1,000. And the reason why you want to do that is because if there's an overage, it's easy for them to get a refund check. If there's a shortage, it's a pain in the neck having them have to go back to the bank, get another cashier's check, or wire money again. Okay, so I always like to pad it about $1,000 just to be on the safe side. And remind your buyer that they will get a refund on whatever's not used. Okay, talk to the listing agent regarding the keys, openers, and make sure that they have everything there ready to go for your buyers. And then what you do after the signing, you want to check on funding and check with the title company. Sometimes you can talk to the lender too, see when their funding is. Sometimes it's 24 to 48 hours. In some cases, they can fund the same day. It's just, just figure 24 to 48 hours. And you can talk to the lender, but I always like to get confirmation from the title company because that's the ones that will receive the money and they know for sure it's there. Okay. Title will then communicate recording, confirmation, and official close of escrow. What recording confirmation is, on the morning that it's closing escrow, they're going to send their courier down to the county recorder with everything that needs to be recorded, the new grant deed, deeds of trust if there is a loan. Once they get that recorded at the county will notify the title company, okay, it's official. We got, it's recorded. That's the confirmation. Then the title company will let us know once that takes place, and then we can hand over the keys to the buyer. And always, if possible, I like to meet them at the house and give them the keys there, and it's a really happy moment. Most of the time, it's a very upbeat, and that's another good time to ask for referrals. And then after that, follow up with them, see how the move is going, visit them, take them lunch. Sometimes people take lunch, helping them with the move. There's a lot of different ways to do it. And also, what I don't have on here, a lot of people like to give a closing gift. That is totally personally up to the individual. Okay, any questions? We're done with the buyer's timeline. Anybody want to add? Anybody want to contribute or have any questions? Consider this an open forum. Anybody is welcome to talk. And before we move on to the seller's timeline, I'll wait a few seconds and then we'll move on. Everybody good? Then let's move on. So once again, here is the generic seller timeline, accepted offer, inspection period, appraisal, and close. A little bit more to it than that, right, guys? So let's take a look at the seller side. Okay, so you want to confirm the receipt of the offer. So when you receive the offer, of course, you let the agent know that, yes, I received the offer, and tell them when you're going to be reviewing them. So review the offer, make sure that it's written right. Call the lender if it's not cash, because you want to make sure this loan is ready to go. It is in place. It's not just a pre-qual, it's an actual pre-approval. Find out if they confirmed all the information such as employment, credit, and funds. And they're going to send you, most of the time, they'll send you proof of funds. Make sure those funds or that statement is current. Okay, make sure their name is on it. You want to make sure it's their money. Talk to the buyer's agent, ask them a little bit about the buyer. Say, what is it that they liked about this house? Why are they buying? And get some information, because what you want to do, especially if you are in a multiple offer situation, you want to make sure you pick a buyer that is really motivated for this house, because you don't want it to fall through. Now, I always like to check for new competition. For example, if I'm about to go present the offer to the sellers, I want to know if there's another house that came up on the street or in the neighborhood, or something that could affect, you know, our decision. So I always run a search right before I go. So review the offers with the sellers, and either they're going to accept it, they're going to counter it, or they'll just outright reject it. Okay. So once you get an acceptance of the offer, now you're in contract. Send the confirmation. Make sure that the contract gets to the lender, the title company, attorney if one is involved, and the client. Make sure the lender has the prelim, and once again, make sure they have the HOA information so they can get the HOA certification. Speak to the lender about the appraisal. Tell them you want to be the contact person. It's okay if both agents are there. It doesn't hurt. So if you want to be the contact person, tell the lender to have you as the contact person. Okay, that's day one. After that, you want to make sure that the deposit gets to escrow. Usually you'll get an email, but not always. Sometimes they're busy. So always follow up, make sure the deposit got into escrow. Again, create a calendar of events for your clients. Either you, whatever style you have, or you can have your escrow coordinator do it. If you haven't done the disclosures up front, you got to get them done quick, because you do have a deadline per the contract. Okay. If there's inspections being done, then attend the inspections. Even if you did inspections up front, the buyer still has a right to get their own inspections. So just find out if they are going to be ordering inspections. It has been done where, you know, we had a full package with inspections, and the buyer still wanted to get their own inspections. Okay, so it happens. So review the inspections if there are new ones that are coming in. I always like to go to the appraisal. Sometimes it helps, and what I have found is if you have a unique property, maybe a Willow Glen home, Nagley Park, Rose Garden, something where everything is different, and it's its own little neighborhood. Make sure that appraiser is familiar with that neighborhood, because I've had a couple situations where the appraiser that was sent out, yes, they do business in San Jose, but they had never done an appraisal in Nagley Park. And we did have a big issue with it. In fact, we had to get a second appraisal because the first appraisal was so bad. He was using comps in a total different neighborhood that made absolutely no sense, but he thought because it was close, he would use them. And so fortunately, we got another appraisal and everything worked out.
Yeah, like finding out homes that are currently sold along the railroad tracks on Monterey Road, where your house would be perhaps on the other side of Santa Teresa.
Yeah, exactly. Just because it's geographically close does not make it a good comp. So I always like to ask the appraiser a few questions before I set the appointment. If I think that this appraiser does not know the neighborhood and there's going to be a problem, I have actually called the lender and said, hey, you know what, cancel this and try to get a different appraiser. And so it's very important that not on all situations, just when you have a very unique house in a certain neighborhood that is, like I say, such as the Nagley Park or a Rose Garden, where everything is different. You can have a tiny little house that's run down right next to a mansion. Okay, so make sure they know what they're doing. Where was I? Okay, follow up with the agent. The lender, if the appraisal, ask him if the appraisal is in, how are the things going with the loan approval? And that way you have an idea, you know, if things are gonna go as planned. The buyer's agent for the contingency removals, even if they're not due yet, just ask them, you know, a few days before, say, hey, how are things going? You think you're gonna be on time with your contingency removals? Okay. Figure out how to handle any requests, whether they're repairs or they're asking for credits. Get estimates if you need to. If they're asking for a repair, you're gonna wanna know how much it's gonna cost. I always like to give a credit as opposed to doing the repair, because sometimes you don't know what their repair is gonna cost once they get into it. They could come back and say, well, you know what, we removed the cabinet, but there's a lot of rotten wood. We have to replace all that as well. And so it's better to give a credit when you're on the seller side. So once again, it could be time to negotiate again. Then remind the buyer's agent about the contingency removals if they haven't been done yet. Okay, so anything before we move on? This is during our contingency period. And if everybody's good, we'll move on. So after the contingency removal, once again, you want to follow up with the lender, see if the appraisal is in. Any other conditions, if there's any outstanding conditions, I always like to ask the lender, are they normal conditions or is there something out of the ordinary? If it's routine conditions such as updated bank statement, updated pay stub, not a big deal. But every now and then, an underwriter can come up with something that is a little bit out of the ordinary. So this way, you know, and because if there's going to be any problems, you want to know as soon as possible. Follow up with the lender on the clear to close, the CD on the docs again, just like the last time, or for the buyer. Check on the seller's move. Remind them about utilities that they're going to be needing to shut them off at a certain date. Once I have, I know docs are going to be ordered, I'll schedule the staging to be removed if it's staged. Follow up with title to see if the docs are in. I always like to follow up with title as opposed to the lender, because even if the lender sent the docs, they may not be there yet. Sometimes it takes a while for them to get there. Sometimes they've been ordered, but they haven't been sent out. So your loan agent might say, yeah, we ordered docs. They were ordered already, but who knows when they're being sent. So always check with a title company if you want to be sure. Once again, request and review an estimated closing statement. Make sure that everything is right. Make sure that all the charges are right. Make sure there's nothing there that should not be there. Okay, schedule the sign off. Sign off for a seller can happen anytime. They don't have to wait for docs to be in. The sellers, their numbers are pretty set. Everything, it will just be prorated, but the sellers can sign off prior to docs being there if they wanted to. Confirm that any work that the seller agreed to do was done, and schedule a walkthrough with the buyer's agent. Go to the sign off. And once again, hopefully it's a happy occasion, and ask for referrals. Make sure things are okay with the move out. Make sure they're going to be out on time if they're not already moved out. Arrange the seller regarding the keys, openers, etc. Make sure that they leave them in a drawer, someplace where it's easy to find. If they have owner's manuals and warranties for any of the appliances, just have them put everything on the kitchen counter or in one of the drawers. Make sure the keys, the garage door opener, etc., are all there in one spot. And also ask them for the garage door opener in the car, because I've seen it happen many times. They put the opener in the kitchen and they drive off and they forget to have one on the visor of the car. So I always like to ask them if they got the one out of the car. So then you want to do is check on funding. Call the title company, ask if the loan funded yet. And then once it does, title will set up recording and they will communicate the recording and the close of escrow. Okay. Make sure you remove your Supra, call for the sign to come down, and change the MLS. And once again, check on the sellers, see if their move went okay. And if everything is good and they're happy, ask for referrals. Anybody have anything to add? Any questions, comments, anything before we move on? So that's what an escrow generally looks like. Now we're going to talk a little bit about where deals could fall apart and how to hopefully keep them alive. And so, of course, whenever there's a contingency that is coming up, that's a chance when a deal can fall apart. Let's say the negotiation between the buyer and the seller for the repairs or the credits, nobody's agreeing. Well, that deal can fall apart. So it's our job to make sure that if it's not an unrealistic request, that our clients are being practical. Sometimes we have to go back to the motivation, get them back on track, like we were speaking about the other day during the negotiation class. Why are they doing this? What's the big why? Get them back on track. Sometimes you have to get them to compromise. Remember, this is a give and take situation. You can't get everything you want all the time. Okay? Now, we need to be problem solvers. Sometimes it's not just somebody giving in. Sometimes there's another way to solve the problem. That's what we need to be. We need to be problem solvers. Okay? So what I want to go on and talk about is minimizing issues and problems that could come up. And all that is done in a good preparation. And I believe we spoke about it during our negotiation class that we're talking about preparation is very important. I believe good preparation will make anything go smooth. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to talk about things that I like to find out before anything gets started. And so some of the questions I ask and information that I like to find out is usually stuff that people don't think about. Now, some of these questions are basic, and some of them have a specific reason because of an experience that I've had or I saw somebody else have that I ask all these questions. So, of course, I always like to know how long they lived in the home. If it's been more than or less than 2 years, you have to have a discussion on it if that's their principal residence regarding their exclusion. Do they live in the home? If yes, how long have they lived in the home? And if not, how long has it been a rental? And these questions have to do with your the exclusion, the $250,000 for a single person or the $500,000 exclusion for a married couple. Okay? If it's an investment property, are they just cashing out or are they going to do a 1031 exchange? Is a home in a trust? If there is a trust involved, do you have a copy of the trust? And is there an attorney involved? If there's an attorney involved, I like to make sure if I'm working on a listing, I want to get that listing signed ASAP before they do anything with the attorney. The reason why is because attorneys have real estate friends. And a lot of times they'll refer the client to their real estate friend and you're out. So I always get the listing agreement signed as soon as possible if there's an attorney involved. And then I make friends with the attorney because they're a good source of business sometimes. Okay? Does anybody else have an interest? Or are there any other decision makers? Now, there are times when you can pull a property profile and not every person that is on that title will show up in the property profile. Property profile will show 1 or 2 names, but there could be 6 people on title. So always find out if there's other people on title than what you see on the profile. Are there any other decision makers? There could be somebody that has a say-so, but they're not on title. So find out if there's other decision makers and then get them involved in the process. What is the mortgage balance? What did you pay for the home? Get the lender information. You want to get the lender information up front because you want to have the title company have that because they're going to get the payoff. I like to know if there's any critical dates when they need to have the home sold. And once again, it could be that 2-year period, and it could also be a 3-year period. And let me explain. The 2-year period is they have to own it and lived in it for 2 consecutive years out of the last 5 to sell it as a principal residence. Another critical date would be 3 years after they stopped having that as their primary residence, because even if it's 3 years, if they close escrow before 3 years, after they made this home not their principal residence, they can still sell it as their principal residence because they're still meeting the 2 years out of the last 5 years. Okay? So sometimes these dates are critical. is there an HOA? Even if it's a house and not a townhouse or a condo, sometimes these newer communities, they have a homeowners association. I always like to ask, and I'm going to save this line for last because there's a lot to talk about on it. Any required ongoing services, such as propane service, such as if there's certain things in that neighborhood that they have to pay for every month. Is there anything leased, for example, solar? Always check the prelim for accuracy. For some reason, a lot of agents do not read the prelim, but you got to read it because sometimes there's mistakes and you want to catch those up front. And a couple of those mistakes could be maybe they did a refinance, and when they did that refinance, for some reason, the reconveyance of the old loan didn't go through. So now you have an old loan still showing on title. If you know this up front and get it taken care of up front, it's not a problem. Okay, as long as you catch it early. Also, are the names correct on the title? And so make sure you read the prelim. And also tell when you open up an escrow, the title company is going to send some preliminary disclosures to the sellers. Make sure they get that filled out and sent in because some of that information the title company needs. And it's better if they have it sooner than later because a lot of times if they wait till the end, then they lose it because they're moving and they can't find the paperwork. So have them do it right away. So let's go back to where it says any tax liens, judgments, BK. Tax liens, you want to know if there's any tax liens. And mainly the IRS or state tax lien because those will not show on a title report. So ask them about if they're current on taxes, do they have any tax liens, and judgments. Oh, and the reason why it's important is because it won't show on the title report, but before you close title, right before close of escrow, the title company is going to run their name. And anything showing under their name, it'll show up on their search, even though it may not show on a credit report and it may not show on the title report, but it shows under their name. And so sometimes things will show up that's not theirs. And that's when the title company will have them fill out another form and they try to clear it up. Okay, judgments. Find out if there's any judgments against them because once again, it may not be on the title report, may not be on the credit report, but it will show up when the title company runs their name. And there's nothing worse than having a surprise like that come up right before close of escrow. Bankruptcies, was there any bankruptcies? Are they in a Chapter 13? If they are in a Chapter 13, then you got to get the attorney involved, their bankruptcy attorney, and they have to do whatever they do so that the home can be sold. Okay. Now here's what's really important. And was there a modification done on this current loan? And the reason why that's really important because back in the short sale season, 08, 09, all that time, the lenders had different ways of doing their modifications. Some of them would reduce the loan balance and they would just forgive a portion of that balance. They just wiped it out. Some of them deferred a portion of that loan balance. And the reason why they did that is because they wanted to get the homeowner that was having trouble with their loan to qualify on their modification plan. First, they would drop the rate all the way down to as low as 2%. And if they didn't qualify, then they would extend the term of the loan. For example, it was a 15-year loan, they would change it to a 30-year amortization. If they had a 30-year loan already, they'd change it to a 40-year amortization. And then hopefully they qualified with that payment. If they still didn't qualify with that payment, then they would reduce the loan balance that they're calculating the payment with. And let's just say they had a $500,000 loan. And after doing those first two steps, the lender said, well, if you use that low rate with the extended term on $400,000, then you qualify. So now you have $100,000 that on some lenders, what they do is they just deferred it. They did not forgive it. So years go by and the seller thinks, well, I only owe this much, but they don't realize there's another $100,000 that they owe, that deferred balance. So that did come up a couple times when I had a person that wanted to sell. They thought they owed, say, $300,000, but they actually owed $400,000. And so it's a good thing that we found out right up front Okay, because that would be a horrible thing to happen at the end of an escrow. Another one that is very rare, but it does happen, is assistance. Has a client in the past ever had any assistance from the county? Now, this happens sometimes if somebody doesn't have insurance. They're in the hospital, a crisis is happening, the doctor comes in and says, well, we need you to sign this authorization, this affidavit, this and this and this. And one of those forms that they signed is called an agreement to reimburse. And that is basically a form saying, yes, the county's going to pay for me now, and I'll pay the county back someday. That form is not recorded on any title. It doesn't show up on a credit report, but it's filed at the county under this person's name. So once again, right before close of escrow, the title company's going to run a search on that client's name, and this could show up if there was assistance provided by the county. And these things kind of take a while because they're usually really old records, and the county has to go back and look it up. Then they have to calculate how much is owed. So always find out if there ever had assistance from the county. Title transfers. Was there anybody that, did they ever sign the property over to anybody, or did they get assigned over to them and it did not go through escrow? Find that out, because then what you have is an uninsured deed. So they could have a grant deed that they got from somebody, but it didn't go through the title company. There's no insurance on it. So then the title company has to do a whole different process with that. I mean, it's not that you can't sell it. It's not that it can't be done, but there are a few extra steps at the title company. So it's good to know it up front. And if this is a divorce case, because let's just say the person lives by themselves, but they're still married, they're getting a divorce. If there is a divorce going on, you need to know. You have to talk to the attorneys. You have to make sure that the divorce includes the terms of the sale. And so a few little things that you do all this up front, it's going to prevent little headaches from coming during your escrow. Okay. Anybody have any questions regarding this list? Does any of it make sense? Anybody have anything to add? Any experiences that anybody has had? If not, there's a couple of things I wanted to bring up, and I just remember this when regarding the preliminary title report and modifications and credit reports. And the reason why I bring those three together is because I had a situation once where my client did do a modification. He had a first and a second. And one of the things they would do way back then when we had the mortgage crisis, the second would be, or the first loan would be underwater. So that means the second loan, there was no equity at all. And what some of the attorneys are doing, they would have a process where they say they would strip it off and they would take it off the title. I never got into that. But one thing I did know is when they would write off these loans, or when they, they didn't get their money back, the banks would write them off. And so I looked at the credit report and I saw that the loan was still showing on the credit report, but it said written off. And so I called the title company and I talked to the title officer, not the escrow officer, but the title officer, two different things. And I described the situation to him. And I said, if they wrote this off, does that mean that you can take this off the title? And so they looked into it. And sure enough, they were able to remove that second lien off the title report. So it turned that what would have been a short sale into a regular sale. And that seller ended up getting money. So another thing to look at when you are talking to somebody and they say that they did have a modification. Look into things like this, because boy, that is something that your clients will love you for. This client was going from a short sale situation to where he got money, and we wiped out that second lien on his property. He was very, very happy, needless to say. Anybody else have any stories, any input, anything they want to add? I know we got some people that have been in the business for a long time, and I'm sure they have some stories that they can share. Anybody willing to talk? Anybody there? It's so quiet. Well, let's bring us to the end of today. It also touches in this course a little bit about how to operate command, but for me, I think that's a whole different class that can go on for an hour by itself. So I know that, for example, Renee in our office, she will do classes on command. So I would say it's much better to listen to Renee than it would be to listen to me regarding command. Okay, so with that said, we're about finished, and I'd like to hear some input from somebody.
Well done,
You're
Randy.
unmuted, Tom.
Super helpful.
Well done, Randy. Thanks for your help. And, you asked for, any opinions, this, that, or whatever. For me, anytime you're in a transaction and there's bumps in the road, there's always bumps in the road. It's important to keep that ball moving forward. And sometimes I lose that mindset. I get to the point where I'm thinking that we're done. And it's important to remember that, it's never done. There may be something else that you can do to keep it moving forward. And then with these lists that you have, that's kind of, I think it would be a helpful thing to have that in front of me to keep it moving forward.
Yeah, that's why I said the other day and today that we always have to go back to motivation to get people to keep moving forward. Sometimes they're just nervous. Sometimes they're scared. Sometimes they just, buyer's remorse, seller's remorse. We have to remind them of their why. Why are you doing this? Make sure that they keep that in mind so that they keep moving forward.
Great. Just got a call from my client. She left me a text message. So that's good, right?
Yeah.
I've been trying to get in touch with her for a couple of weeks now, and finally got through. So.
Oh, very good. Hopefully it's good.
Yeah, made my day.
You're getting a lot of nice comments in the chat, Randy. People are thanking you and saying well done. So.
Oh, well, thank you everybody for being here. It was fun. I look forward to doing it again someday if Laura lets me.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I was hoping to get a little bit more feedback, some more contribution. Thanks, Tom, for yours.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, I think they know it all now, Randy. You've done a great job of teaching them. So, all right, everybody, thanks so much. Congratulations, and everybody have a great day. Thanks, Randy.
All right, thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.